have a ton of people who want to ask you questions. You ready?
Okay, let's go.
All right. Where do we go first? Let's go to Lyndsay Dowd.
Hi, Doc. Nice to meet you. This is
Thank you.
fascinating stuff.
Thank you.
I have two questions for you.
Okay.
First question is, how does the test work? Is there a specific gene you're looking for? Is it like gene 22, or is it like, I'm just so curious how you determine these four things from a genetic test.
Yeah, so what I did is, what I figured out, there's 7 gene SNPs I look at. And these gene SNPs are looking at the neurotransmitters that are looking at what I call neuroflexibility. It's a term I coined. Basically, you have two parts of the nervous system. You have the parts that turns on, and most of our outliers here are like, I'm always on. Like my girlfriend's like, you can't stop. I'm like, I can't. It's always on. But we don't get to turn the brakes on. Some people have the brakes always on, but never have the gas pedal down. So I always sit and say, think about it like this. You're driving down the road, driving down the hill, but the brakes aren't working. What's going to happen is that nervous system is that same way. You can't ever shut it off. A really healthy body and a healthy mind is the ability to be able to go on and off and control the way that it works. However, that a lot of us aren't designed that way. And we label them as ADD or ADHD or sensory on the sensory spectrum and all these factors we've said. And I found with my testing is that they just have an imbalanced nervous system. So what I'm looking for through these 7 SNPs, and there's more, of course there's more. On my newer test, the newer test, we have the 12 SNPs that we're looking at. But we're looking at to see how quickly your body will be able to naturally adapt.
That's really cool. So do you see like markers or weaknesses on certain SNPs? So you're like,
Absolutely.
oh, that's the deficiency. And then
Absolutely.
your supplements help support that. Is that?
Absolutely. That's right.
Oh.
So there's multiple ways to rebalance that system, right? There's supplements we do use, right? I'm pro supplements to help balance it. But it's also then how do we think, right? I found that the nervous system is that we have to put in the right raw materials, as my friend Gary Brecka says, right? You got to have the right raw materials. And then we've also got to have the right thinking based on our nervous system to create the response for our body to be balanced. And so the test itself is just a cheek swab. It's a cheek swab, it's not blood. It's just a cheek swab. Sure. We take it, we send it to the lab, and it's the only biological system of behavior that's, as far as I know, that's ever been designed. Because, and ultimately, what was your name? I'm sorry?
Lyndsay.
Lyndsay. The only reason I tell you that I came across it is because I needed to figure out who I was more than anything. Because I didn't make sense to myself. And I don't know if you guys have ever felt that way. It's like, I just feel like I'm this crazy. I didn't know who I was. And I really ended up doing it as a thing for myself and my family. And I started realizing there was so much power to this. That's how this whole thing started.
I love it. All right. My other question is, how does gratitude play into what you're talking about? Because I will push back a little bit. Us outliers are very evolved, very balanced, very hard driving, hard, working kind of people, but we're also extremely empathetic and kind of grounded. I think I'm just going to use that blanket for the most part. But how does gratitude play into this?
Most people are grateful for the things that they get in life. They're not grateful for the challenges and the circumstances and the obstacles they had to go through. The nervous system sees gratitude at the moment the event is created. So I always sit and say that you can't heal. The nervous system doesn't heal until the event and the emotion have been synthesized. And so when the event and the emotion become synthesized, then we actually heal and create gratitude in your nervous system. And you're right. There's a lot of outliers and leaders. By nature, what you've done, you've been able to do, and I was one of those people too, is that I can bury the bad stuff to push so that I can show the world, here's where I am. I've done all these things and I'm grounded. What I found over the years, Lyndsay, and you just have to take my word for it at this point, right? What I found is that I found that to be pseudo gratitude versus authentic gratitude. When I hit my nervous system to hit that same space, and there's just an awe in the nervous system that there's nothing else I can say, but the whole system just shuts and relaxes in this space. And maybe you've experienced it, maybe you haven't, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I have.
Yeah, it's
I have. I like when people live that way, and you had that, shove out of the nest you needed, or that, moment where you had a crisis and had to overcome it. And that it made you pivot
Yeah.
in a really good way. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.